Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So these collections of little videos are little projects that I'm completing as I decorate my mouse manor, my French chateau inspired Thimbleberry manor. So this one is all about making little spools. Now the first time I saw these little spools was actually when Tia sent me a picture of them being made. And since then, I've found them on a few different YouTube channels out there of how to actually make them. But I haven't actually watched that. I just sort of figured out my own process and they've worked. So this is the little spools, and I've wrapped a collection of laces, some yarns. That's a little velvet ribbon I found, and a little blue rickrack. So when I created them, as in decorated them, I tried to keep it in sets of 3 or 5. So I did 5 lacy toned ones, 3 little woolen ones, and then the blue. I only had the one rickrack and the one velvet ribbon that narrow, and then I found a little blue piece of wool to go around that final spool. So what I wanted to show you is how I made them. If you'd like to make some for your craft room, you don't have to have a doll's house to do this stuff. They're just little cuties that you could make yourself and just have on display in your room. So I have 3 left out of my little first batch. And I've picked these 3 because they're all different sizes, but I'll show you what I want to do with those in a moment. So first of all, how did I make them? This is just a blank cardstock card. It's not very thick, hence why I put 2 together. So if you could find something a little bit thicker, might work better. It's just a case of experimenting. I don't know what the gauge on that is. It's not real thick. But you need 3 little circles per end, but I'll show you what I mean. So with my little crafty hole punch, and it's certainly not an expensive hole punch, so I'm going to cut it 3 times. I actually made them about 2-3 days ago, but I've only just wrapped the textiles around them now, so I hope I remember what I'm doing. I'm sure I'll be fine. So I need to do this 6 times, and I'm getting 2 out each time. Okay, so I punched that. Now I open up the little reservoir and out they come. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is glue a few of them together. That's like the bottom base of the little piece, little spool. It's very fiddly. So if you're not into fiddly things, this is probably not the project for you. So a little bit of glue and put another one on top. That becomes a set. Oops. Another couple here. So this will make us a few. So there's 6 little rings needed for each spool. So 2 and 2 together. I'll do another one, another set. I hope that made sense. I don't know if I got that right. So another 2 together. So this is like a firm little base. It'll make sense in a moment. And then we've got another 2 together. So that's 2 spools. Now we need 1 more circle per end. So we need 4. So yeah, I was too short. That's okay. We can just click ourselves another one. The other thing you'll need some toothpicks. Out you come. Where are you? It's caught on the metal. I just start mucking around with glue, things start sort of adhering together, don't they? Now I've got a pokey tool here, so nice point. I use it to create holes in my spines of books so that I can, you know, bind them together. So a book awl, pokey tool. So I'm just gently, ever so gently, careful, this is spiky tools being used, creating a hole in that one. And you sort of want to get to a point where you are creating a hole big enough for one of these to go through. It will all make sense in a moment. If it's not big enough, because you'll go through, the toothpick will make it just enough big enough to, you know, continue on down the shaft of that toothpick. You want to just get it so it's just to pass the point of the curve, or, you know, the taper of the toothpick. Gosh, I've got so much glue over my fingers. I'm then going to get rid of the excess toothpick. So now that that little end is just there, then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that end, and those guys there that we joined together are about to join in with this fellow. Holding the toothpick nice and straight, my pokey tool's used just to bring all of those surfaces together. When that dries, it'll be nice and secure. And look, at the end of the day, when you're winding your textiles on, if an end pops off, it's actually quite easy to adhere it back on, because you now have some textiles around the you know, spools. So there's even more for it to grab onto. So let's move to the next circle. Do not go through your finger. You want to slide it up past your nail, like so. These things are the cutest. So you need 3 little circles per spool on one end. So if that makes sense, 6 little circles. That's probably what I should have said first. I'll tell you, when you're concentrating on sharp tools, the math goes out the door. But you guys can figure this out. This is not rocket science. And, you know, like, I haven't watched a tutorial. This is just me nutting out how to do it, and it worked. Whether there's other ways, I don't know. You could probably put into the search wooden spools miniature. You'll soon find others out there making them. So I'll put a little bit on there. Don't need a lot. This is Gorilla Glue, grabs fast. Those first ones are made with PVA glue, and then I finally got onto the whole Gorilla Glue, and it's way better. Grips a lot quicker. PVA can, you know, take a good 12 hours to dry. This dries 30 minutes and you're away. Does not take long. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is once again make a hole in the end, but we need to make it quite a generous hole, because we need to slide that down the furthest distance down that little toothpick. Does that make sense? So it's got a fair way to slide. So make your hole quite large. It's a little bit off center, but oh, don't worry about it. Some of them were so off center, but they still look good. Now it's a case of getting that little guy down the shaft. There we go. It's just a case of encouraging him. There's a little splinter there. If there are a few little splinters, you could always sand them off. There we go. I'm going to make these quite generous because I want to try something with you guys that I could imagine is not out on YouTube. Oops, shot off across the room. Like I said, that's, you know, not rocket science, but has anyone slow stitched in miniature? And this is where I want slow stitch our little world to join the miniature little world, the textile side of things. The making of the furniture is fun and all, and you know, how much time do you have? But to theme something to suit our little world is just such a fun opportunity, I think. So just going to balance that there and just gently mush down. Hope you can see what I'm doing with that tool. Just going around that bottom until the glue, you know, grabs. And we have another spool just like that. So one more to go. Here's my single disc or my single circle. So it's just sitting off to the side here. I've got my threads, I've got needle, and I've got some really fine cotton. So I don't want it to be too bulky because it'd be lovely to get a decent line of, gee, that's a big hole. That should slide through, no worries. Make this quite big. Okay, now, next is to snip it. I am stunned at what they make out of toothpicks. I'm not sure when you're watching this video because it's lots of little pieces, but I've been thinking about balustrading and I was wondering, how do they get that turned edge look? Then it dawned on me one morning, cocktail sticks. So that it's not the toothpick that you see here, it's a longer timber post, for want of a better word. Oh, come on, get off my finger. I'm sticking to it. And the top of it is, I guess, routed or edged. Oh my goodness, got it all over my fingers. So then you get that shape, and I thought, oh, that's perfect for balustrading. So yeah, it's just a case of having a look around and seeing, you know, what I see, and does something pop into my little pea brain that's suitable. I'm thoroughly enjoying this series. I don't know, it might end up being a thing, who knows. I've had a few people unsubscribe. Obviously, this is not their world, but that's okay. That's all right. There's probably better things to watch out there than me fumbling around making miniature spools. Okay, so we have another two little spools. I'll just move them out of the way to dry. Now, when I made them in bulk, I grabbed my sanding block and I did the one end, and then I just sat them in here and let them dry. But the thing is, I was using PVA glue, so that gave them the night to dry. And then the next morning I did the treatment on the other end. So I just thought I'd show you that if you're working with PVA glue, it's definitely doable. I wouldn't use a hot glue gun. I think that's like danger potentially. So what I want to do now is make a little slow stitched piece. Be looking at this going, oh my goodness. I don't know how long we need the fabric to be. Let's just roll it on. So if this was lace or ribbon or thread, you'd put a little bit of glue on the shaft, then pinch it on like I am here now, and then just ever so slowly wind whatever it is going on onto the spool. And when you got enough, or you think it's enough, it's just a case of putting a dab of glue and then it comes off the spool. Not off the spool, it looks like it can be cut off the spool is what I'm trying to say. So a little dab of glue would hold that. We might make one that's just calico. So if we were a slow stitching mouse, you'd need threads, you'd need a needle, and away you go. So there's one that's cut by the meter. Let's prep another one, but this one will actually stitch. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. I'm going to pretend I'm slow stitching on a little piece of fabric. So that fabric, I would say, is probably a little long. As I wound that, I really filled the spool. So what I might do is actually break it down a little bit, like, not break it down, what's the right words? Take it a fraction. We don't need it as long. But then if it's unspooled, you would see more slow stitch, wouldn't you? So if it was a little bit longer, I could then have it, yeah. No, oh look, I'm going to leave it that length. So what length have I used? Let's put it on the, so 3 inches. Now my biggest spool is about 1 inch. My smallest spool, 3/4 of an inch. It's not 1/2 inch. You could certainly do 1/2 inch. Yeah, 3/4 of an inch. So that's the size if you want to have a go at some slow stitched mini spools. That's the end task. But, you know, that can be made on the way. How super cool. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, I did grab a bigger rickrack, but it was too stiff and a little bit too big. So sizing wise, it just didn't quite work. That rickrack in there on that little blue one is an itty bitty. So how are we going for time? 17 minutes, okay. Good, good, we've got plenty of time. So let's just move these out of the way. I don't know how they'll be displayed in the Thimbleberry Manor. I've got no idea. That's not my aim of the game at the moment. It is just about having a little play, making some elements, just something to do on a random day. And I guess once I have these little ideas, they're out of my head and I'm just opening up my threads to see what I can find. I'm thinking stranded cotton so that I can break down the size of the thread. You know, what do I need? 1 or 2? I'm going to try 2. See what it looks like. If it looks too thick and not in proportion, I can, you know, undo it and break it down to 1 strand of the 6. So there you go. There's a slow stitched hand sewing girls version of something from the miniature world. Now we're starting to get into my true world of sewing and just dragging it into the miniature world. Okay, so let's begin with just, I'm thinking a heap of running stitch. Let's keep it classic slow stitch where it's running stitch. We could play with some embroidery stitches. So Jennifer Clouston, her stitches that she uses in her work, it'd be interesting to have a thumb through her book and see which ones there I could break down into even smaller versions, you know, and they still, I guess, maintain the integrity of the stitch. It's all well and good doing this, but you still want to see that it's a lazy daisy or a, you know what I mean? I sort of feel like that stitch needs to be smaller, but I can always come back over it with another colour. You know, maybe on the horizontal or the vertical, depend which way you're holding your fabric, just to soften it. But we'll start with this and see where we go. So I think this little sampler is going to be just lots of running stitch. The other thing I was thinking about, these thimbleberries, the actual plant that my French chateau is named after, maybe I could do a bit of stitching of them. So we'd need some colonial knots or French knots for the little berries. We would need some little lazy daisies, maybe even satin stitch to create the little white berries, and a little stem stitch. So this is one. So I'm going to unthread it. So just imagine lots and lots of running stitch, then I'll pick some other threads and I'll just keep stitching, keep, you know, rolling through the fabric. So that's one of them, and that was going to go on the bigger, was it this one? Okay, so he's accounted for with a slow stitch piece of fabric. Let's have a look at the remaining fabric and see. I'm thinking I need room for thimbleberries. That should work. And maybe I need a pen. Here we go. I might need to stabilize this because the moment you start embroidering on really soft fabric, you know, things can get a little puckered. So let's have a think. We need little white flowers. Let's just draw a design. Little white flowers. I bet you I will need to stabilize this. I'll get another little white flower. And then we'll do the little thimbleberry, the berries themselves are like little cone-shaped plants, fruits, like a raspberry, like a wild raspberry. That's what they look like. And they tend to dangle off of a little green thread. That might be too much detail in this space, but what we'll do is a few little green little leaves. Another little flower. Bit of green. Look, at the end of the day, as I stitch it, I'll just make some judgment calls on what goes next, whether it's the thimbleberry itself or it's the little blossom. Okay, that's a good start. So if that's wound onto the spool, we can then have this little thimbleberry embroidery coming off. So let's pick some threads. That thread was with that. I think we want these ones to be a little bit more raspberry red, maybe that colour. And then we need a white that's going to show up on that, so we may even have to drift into pink a little bit. It's very pink. It's not what I had in mind. Just searching my threads here. Maybe that. They're technically white, but I might build them up with a bit of pink and then we pop a couple little white stitches into it. We'll see. Now, will we have a go at doing it without stabilising? If it goes pear-shaped, I can always get some more fabric. I can stabilise it, but for the speed of which we want to do this project on YouTube, so that you guys can, you know, get on with your day and not sit here watching me stitch thimbleberries. So we might do 2 strands again. You can hear Fudgy snoring. Oops. Maybe one of the other spools, I could do little swatches of fabric. And the fourth one, I don't know, I have to have a think. Oh, this is going to be fiddly. I might do. Yeah, I have a feeling instead of doing lots of little dots, I think one might be enough. Figure 8, and then back down we go. Slide the knot to the fabric, stabilize it with my 12 fingers I have here. Jump up here a little bit. A few maybe by themselves. And then we might put a few a little bit closer together so it feels like it is, you know, a cluster of them. You might be thinking of a different flower in your mind as a potential itty-bitty embroidery. Could even use very small seed beads. My seed beads I don't think go small enough. You'd need tiny ones. Yeah, I'm not going to do a series of knots near each other to create one berry. Each knot is the berry, and that's plenty big enough for the scale. And my feeling is that a little tiny lazy daisy might be sufficient too. That satin stitch is too much for the space. Oh my goodness, this is fiddly, guys. Be warned, if this is fiddly does you stir crazy, well, don't be tempting this. You'll be throwing it at the at the floor going, that girl. But if you're into fine embroidery, I tell you who comes to mind is Nikki Franklin. She does beautiful fine embroidery, often with one stranded cotton. And it produces such a beautiful look. I sort of feel like this is a bit like the scale that Nikki would do in her pieces. She's a English girl. Had the privilege of doing a workshop of hers some time back, and she's just adorable. I purchased some time back a lot of her little kits and stitched them and put them into a little journal. It's a lot of fun. Put too close. All right, so I think we got the gist of the thimbleberry. And the other project that I had in mind for this video, which is along the same lines as doing something miniature, is there's a little picture frame. Now, I've antiqued it so that it looks old. and has lost that gold brassy sort of look, and the picture in it was sitting portrait style, and of course that wouldn't fit in my bookcase that I made. So I'm going to mount it landscape. So I needed to remove all of the inners of the frame, which then gives me the opportunity of doing a little slow stitch piece. So that's something else that I'd like to also have a play with. And the thimbleberry was definitely on my mind as a potential piece that could be popping up in a few locations. If this works well, well then that gives me, maybe I could do it on some cushions and, you know, some other little places through the manor. It sort of becomes a thing. And this little project is a good way of myself testing out the process, see if we can get it to look like little berries, and yeah, potentially putting it elsewhere. It's getting finicky when you're doing that type of work, but it is fun. At least it's quick to complete because they're only little itty bitty projects. Imagine a throw rug with thimbleberries all over it. Oh my goodness. So let's have a play with this pink. Maybe white's a better colour. I don't know. It's all experimenting. Keep that. I won't need it. But if this becomes the colour palette for the picture frame piece, well then at least I know what I've used. I thought I'd be putting a few little videos together for you in this, but like usual, slow stitch is slow. So making that was, you know, I probably sat here for 2 or 3 hours before I turned the camera on for you guys. I know I wanted to show you how to make them. And then we bring them into our little world. Let's do a lazy daisy stitch first and see. Oh my goodness, this is going to be quite a challenge. Maybe I go to crochet cotton so we get a chunkier little petal. No. See, the thing we've got to remember is the scale. They're not meant to be big, you know, big pieces. They're little mouse made with little mousy fingers. That's working beautifully. You know what I might do? Is find a white cotton and do a little French knot in the center of the flower just to raise it up. And I haven't needed to stabilize this. That's great because it would have added bulk to the little spool. So I'm pleased that that hasn't been needed. Oh my goodness, I tell you. This is just adorable. I'll finish this one little daisy. Then we might select a green. And I can do a couple little leaves and that'll set the picture. Lovely. And I'm just thinking, once I get these little flowers in position, a little cluster here, what I'll do is maybe go back down to one thread in cream and do some camphor stitch in the background. I've got glue on my fingers, guys, I tell you. to go from gluing straight into embroidery is probably not the wisest thing. But anyway, that's how we roll. Now green. I could do with a green. Let me just jump up and grab my greens. We need to find, it's quite a green little, we need a stranded cotton. I'm thinking olive green, this one. Yeah. I think what I might do too when I'm finished playing with you guys and head off to fiddle is I might iron out all the black. I think I've got a general gist of, you know, how it'll come together, and then I can just go for it. Okay, I've been dyeing paper all morning to make it look aged, to make some old vintage books for the Nibble Nook. Isn't that a slow process? Oh my goodness. And but it's fun. It is fun. All right, so let's pop a little bit of green up in here. How are we going to do a leaf? Do we keep it like the daisy? I feel like I might come back and stitch another stitch or two over that lazy daisy just to thicken it up a little bit. I sort of feel like it's a little bit airy-fairy, not solid looking. In all the photos I've seen online, and I'll insert some pictures, it's quite a dense little flower. You'll know what I mean when you see it. Mustn't let those leaves get too big. Remember, think mouse. Think mouse. Yeah, just little. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's good. Love it. That's going to work. I'm going to come up under that pink petal there. You know what I might do is, instead of doing the lazy daisy like this, which gives me a point, I might reverse the petal back in, so then I get a rounder leaf. See how we got that classic lazy daisy leaf? So if we go in reverse, where can I put one? I'll put one over here. Then the peak is, oh, figured that up, didn't I? Oh, my goodness me. I started thinking about something else and I've absolutely jiggered that stitch. Have I split the thread? Nope. How'd it come? Let's try that again. So your instinct is to come up near your flower, but we're going to go out into the air and go back towards the flower. So the peak disappears in amongst the petals. Does that make sense? And we should, now it's come unthreaded, but that's all right. We should, no, it didn't work. Oh my goodness. Oh dear. So fiddly. Take your time. See, my stitches weren't together there when I come up. I think it's because you can easily bury a lazy daisy stitch in amongst petals, and I'm coming from the outside back in, so I'm not concentrating. on my needle placement. Let's try it again. Third time lucky. Oh my goodness. What a tangled mess. I've got a little knot here, I do. Oh. Just keep it straight. My fingernails, I trimmed them before I started filming because I've been dyeing paper in coffee. It's stained my fingers. So they looked terrible. So I thought, oh, I'll cut my fingernails. They were getting to the point of a trim. And let's try that again. Third time lucky. So I'm going back to the cluster with my stitch. The only thing it might do is make it look, no. See, I think, can you see the difference there? It's made it quite a big petal. And I don't think I've achieved the roundness that I thought I would. Like, it's okay. Anyway, look, I'll fiddle with that some more. Is it any better? I definitely need to keep those stitches close together to make it a solid little leaf. And I need to bulk up my flowers more, so I can work on that, no problems. All right, so that's that one is going to be there. So I might pause the video. I'm going to grab some more cloth and we'll have a play with the final two and see what we're going to do with them. 42 minutes, excellent, plenty of time. Okay, I'm back. So I need to move a few little projects off of the camera space. So that all goes there. So classic slow stitch piece now. So I just tore this little morsel off of a very vintage piece of French fabric. So this is not calico, this is French all the way. Oh, there's glue on everything. The trials of bringing glue into your fabricy zone, be warned, the two really don't go together. All right, let's trim that down, that little piece. And let's have a placement play. I've got pins here. Maybe a bit of glue might help this project. Is it the right size? Double check. Yep. Let's have a placement with some classic French-inspired slow stitching. 3 little stripes. Place that on. A plain piece of fabric. Place that on. Remember, we've got to go around the spool at least a couple times. Let's grab this little piece. I grabbed it because of the colour. I thought that that might make a nice splash of red. Seems, oops, too overpowering, so let's just break that up. I'm now thinking about Anne Brooks, minimal, and potentially circles. Don't know, that might be wishful thinking. What else could we do? Maybe I could get one of these little flowers out. Or do we save the flowers for the third one? That'd be cute. What about we take this little guy out? Look at the holes in it. They've been repaired. Whatever this was from. And what we might do for the third piece is I'll fussy cut out those little guys and attach them. Maybe they could go on this one. There's quite a large scale. Let's just fussy cut one out, see what it looks like. They might be too small and we lose the shape of the little flower because of the scale. I don't know. So do we put little flowers on there? Or do we put little flowers over here? It's sort of becoming too busy. I think that needs to be snipped off. Gosh, you could play with this for hours, guys. Oh my goodness. I feel like we need a third lace. When all else fails, I'm going to keep that close by. You know what that would be good for is the photo frame. Let me grab the photo frame. Oh goodness. Just knocked everything flying. This is our little photo frame. Maybe there's an opportunity to do a little, it's got to go like that. See, like that, it'd be perfect. But it doesn't fit in my bookcase. But maybe we can do a little slow stitch piece. And make it look like it's going that way. Don't know. I think that's a goer. We can do something with that. Looks like a little slow stitched project to me. I've now moved on to this. So, you know, the orientation of flowers is just not right, but maybe we can make that work. Don't mind that. And then we lace up the background. Do something, yeah, we're doing a still life. Oh my goodness. Talk about crossover. Let me grab a little bit more of that fabric. I feel like it might make an interesting background. Here we go. This is it here, and it's so old and look at it, just tore. Let's get you to size. See, the background's got that line on it. That really interests me. So now we've got a background. Oops, that didn't tear. I'm not liking this. Looks so plain. I might play with that a little more. Maybe once the stitch, no, don't panic. Get some more stitching on it. It's okay. Okay. So if this is our little background, here comes our little flowers. I know I can bring that into the corner of the frame. So if we rough up this edge so it doesn't look so cut, like nibble some bits out of it. So it's a bit mousy-chewed, a little bit mousy nibbled and old. So it was once a beautiful piece of fabric that they've found a scrap of. And then we could potentially go mousing around. I was going to say ratting around. And I find a piece of lace or something that can come in from the side. I feel like I want to see more of those diamonds. So I don't even mind that. Whether I can find a lace that's soft enough, and I'm losing the diamonds. Move it over a bit. Like I'm just sneaking it into the frame, but I do like that. All right, well, that gives me plenty to play with. So we've got that spool going to have classic slow stitch. That little spool is yet to have anything, but that one is that piece. Then we've got an actual embroidery. So the good thing about these different styles of slow stitch that I'm doing here, and that's free, so we'll see what comes of him, is I can put these in different locations in the house to tell a different story. So this might be an embroidery class, this might be that classic stitching, this is the Boro, you know, camphor style stitching. So there's a little flower that I cut out. Maybe that can come off. I don't know. There's another little bit of flower. Gosh, you could fiddle. To create a little artwork. A little still life. There's another little bit. It's good having the little frame because I can bring the frame over and see where it all lines up. Oh, I don't mind that. Just needs to be in the exact. Oh, I don't mind that. That's interesting. That looks like peeled away wallpaper, doesn't it? Oh, I like that. And then I do a little bit of stitching to keep it all down. Anyway, it's a start. I will check back with you when I've completed the little tasks and show you how we went. So you'll see me in a second. Goodness knows how long goes by, but I will see you soon. Okay, I'm back and the task is completed. Let me show you my itty bitty slow stitch snippet rolls. Look at that one. So the stitching on that one, I ended up using cotton from a sewing machine and I really like the result. If anything, that's shown me that the size of the thread is crucial to these pieces sort of fitting with the size of the project. So I've adhered the excess to the little reel and then I've left it at that and to the point where I could crinkle it up a little with a dab of glue here and there when I'm ready to pop it into position in the chateau. So that's that one. The little embroidery, which is mirroring the gorgeous little thimbleberries. That's it there, finished. So it sort of goes that way. Like when I finished it, I was like, oh gosh, that in a frame on a wall would just be gorgeous. I didn't end up putting anything in the center of the little flowers. I felt like it might get really bulky and I wanted the little berries to be, I guess, the highlight. So there's my little thimbleberry embroidery. So that's like Nikki Franklin. That there is just so classic Anne Brooks slow stitch. Oh, many others, of course, but these are just names that come to mind that I admire their work and have for some time. So this one here is just lots of camphor stitch. It's just, love it. I did put a dab of glue in there to keep it in tight, but it rolled out fully stitched for quite some way, but I've kept it, you know, short and tight. That's my K3N cloth tails, Catherine inspired. And that one was just calico ready to go. So if a mouse wanted to do some slow stitch, we've got calico ready to go. Now there's the spare one that I had plans on doing, and I even found this piece of cloth to do maybe a Fleur Woods inspired piece, but I decided in the end not to. I think I'm just going to leave it with the goodies. Whether I do it in the future or not, that I'm not sure, but I really wanted one without anything on it. Does that make sense? So I can at least then, I guess everything is covered by all of this needlework that to someone who doesn't know our world, they wouldn't even twig that what's in behind there is a spindle. So I decided to leave that spindle free for now. I know I'll be making more because there's just little stories within these little spindles. There's a slow stitch nook. There is somewhere where you would do knitting nook, the 3 little pink ones. Then there's a section of the little shop where you might go and buy some lace, and there's 5 of those little ones. You see what I mean? There's like literally a section of the store could be merchandised or displayed according to, you know, these little spools. That's the slow stitch corner. There's the spools that everything's on. Then there's these little blue ones. So yarn again, rickrack, and velvet. So do I do a yarn story with those 4? It's, you know, that's maybe they sit together. Or do I do a blue story? Like, it's the possibilities are fantastic. And I think this is something, but at this stage, I didn't want to cover the little spindles, all of them, so that I've got one as an example, and I can always, you know, make myself some more. So that's that little project ready to go into the house. My painting for the wall, or my slow stitch piece for the wall, I love it, absolutely love it. Little tuft of lace, a hint of a little bit more foliage coming through there, the main piece of vintage fabric stitched onto some very old vintage fabric. Everything is adhered on the back. It's got a fabric feel there, that'll help the glue grab onto the back of the bookcase. So when I'm ready to stage the nibble nook, that's going to be my piece of artwork. I love it. It's come up really well. All right, guys, I thought this video would be heaps of little bits and pieces, but obviously slow stitch, once again, takes time. So it's just all about itty bitty spindles with itty bitty slow stitch on them. So yeah, let me know in our Facebook group, Stitched Vintage Treasures, if this is a little project you'd like to do. And yeah, post some pictures of your itty bitty slow stitches. They're so much fun, just to display in your room. All right, I'm going to leave you alone now, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.